What would happen to your money if a world war started tomorrow? Not just the battlefield, because history shows something terrifying. Every global war didn't just destroy cities. It destroyed financial systems. Currencies collapsed. Inflation exploded. Entire economies disappeared. And if another global war begins, the financial shock could be even worse, because today's global economy is more connected than ever. To understand the risk of a future conflict, we need to look at what happened during World War I and World War II. History already gave us the warning. Most people just never noticed it. Before 1914, the global financial system looked incredibly stable. Most major economies used something called the gold standard. Currencies were directly tied to gold. That meant governments couldn't simply print unlimited money. International trade was stable. Investors trusted currencies. Banks operated under strict financial discipline. For decades, the system worked. Global trade expanded. Wealth grew. Many economists believed the world had entered a permanent age of financial stability. But then war began. And the first thing governments destroyed wasn't an enemy army, it was the monetary system. When the First World War started in 1914, governments faced a massive problem. Wars are extremely expensive. Armies require weapons, food, ships, factories, and millions of soldiers. And governments didn't have enough gold to pay for, so they made a radical decision. They abandoned the gold standard. Countries stopped converting paper money into gold. Instead, they started printing massive amounts of currency to finance the war. At first, this seemed like a solution. But printing money has consequences. Prices began rising rapidly. Savings lost value. Entire economies became unstable. And after the war ended, some countries never recovered. One of the worst cases happened in Germany. In the early 1920s, Germany experienced one of the most extreme financial disasters in history: hyperinflation. The German currency lost value so quickly that prices doubled in days. Workers were paid multiple times per day because money became worthless within hours. People carried wheelbarrows filled with cash just to buy bread. Savings from entire lifetimes vanished. Families that had once been wealthy became poor overnight. The lesson was clear. War didn't just damage economies, it could destroy money itself. And yet, the world had not learned its lesson, because another, even larger conflict was coming. When the Second World War began, governments again needed enormous amounts of money. But this time, they approached the problem differently. The war economy required massive industrial production. Factories shifted from consumer goods to weapons. Governments controlled prices. They issued war bonds. Citizens were encouraged to finance the war. And by the time the conflict ended in 1945, the global financial system had completely changed. A new monetary order emerged, one centered around the power of the United States. This system became known as the Bretton Woods system, created during the Bretton Woods Conference. The US dollar became the world's dominant currency. Gold still played a role, but the dollar now anchored global finance. This system shaped the modern economy, but even it wouldn't last forever. By the early 1970s, the world had another financial turning point. The United States was facing growing economic pressure. Foreign governments were converting dollars into gold. America's gold reserves were shrinking. In 1971, U.S. President Richard Nixon made a historic decision. He ended the convertibility of the dollar into gold. This moment is known as the Nixon shock. From that point forward, the global economy entered the era of fiat money. Currencies were no longer backed by gold. Their value depended entirely on trust. Trust in governments. Trust in financial systems. Trust in global stability. And that stability depends on one crucial factor: peace. Today's global economy is far more interconnected than the world of 1914 or 1939. Supply chains stretch across continents. Financial markets operate 24 hours a day. Currencies move trillions of dollars every single day. But this interconnected system also creates vulnerability. A large-scale global conflict could trigger multiple financial shocks simultaneously. Stock markets could collapse. Energy prices could explode. International trade could freeze. Governments might impose capital controls. Banks could face severe stress. Currencies might rapidly lose value. Central banks would likely respond by printing massive amounts of money to stabilize economies. Which brings us back to the same pattern seen in every global war. Money becomes political, economics becomes secondary to survival, and financial stability disappears. History shows that global wars reshaped the financial system. The First World War destroyed the gold standard. The Second World War created a new global monetary order. And the economic consequences lasted for decades. If another global conflict were to begin, it wouldn't just change geopolitics. It could transform the entire financial world again. Because throughout history, wars haven't just redrawn borders. They've rewritten the rules of money itself. The real question is not whether war affects the economy. History already answered that. The real question is, what kind of financial system would exist after the next one? If you want to understand how money, power, and global events shape the financial system, subscribe to the channel. Because history isn't just about the past, it's a map of the future. And sometimes, the biggest economic warnings are hidden in history itself.